Hey, so it's been a little bit since the last time I put in a video, and apologies for that. It's just been, again, life goes by and it's been pretty nuts. But I'm going to jump into a video request that I received a while ago, and it kind of speaks to the circumstances that I'm going and dealing with right now. So hopefully this will be of value for you. This request is from Tai Nguyen. I hope I said that right. And it's a couple of questions, but it's also tied with a little bit more. Tai asks, do you believe in a time limit for how much time you put into realizing your vision? So I'll go into a little bit more of her questions in a minute, but this video will be regarding, I'm assuming, projects or a passion project that you're working on or something that you're trying to create. As us INTJs, we love seeing things through, so we love conceptualizing, we love building and actually executing on what we see in our vision. And the tough thing for us is having problems that kind of jump in and force us to maybe go sideways on that. So Tai goes on to say, I'm involved in realizing my own project, but time keeps ticking away, progress still being made, though slowly, and wondering if or when I should give up and just admit defeat, meaning just admit I couldn't pull it off. I never set a time limit. Also, if you have to admit defeat, how might I deal with that emotionally? So that's quite the loaded question. In some of my other videos, I've kind of spoken briefly to the situation I've been having with regards to getting my software program company up and off the ground. And for myself personally, it was one that while I'm a subject matter expert on the end user, I had to rely on a lot of folks to come in and build a team and work in an area that I wasn't always familiar with. It didn't matter how much work and research I put in the beginning. The vision that I wanted to build was really based on skill sets of others that I didn't know. And when I speak to that, it's more the nuances of the skill sets. So things that, or traits in individuals in certain types of professions that I couldn't estimate for. And that's difficult for people like us that are, say, really wanting to strategize and optimize and try and foresee as much limitations or barriers as possible. We aren't complete optimists. We're not sitting there thinking, yeah, we can just press a button and it's just going to magically appear. We probably look more for the worst case scenarios in order to mitigate ahead of time. So this really resonates with me because of the fact that a lot of us want to see a vision realized in ourselves, that we have some sort of, long-term impact or delivery of something that is meaningful. And so for myself, I found that this was a very humbling experience to begin with, because it is difficult to say whether or not you can become defeated or not defeated. Do you want to buy into the ideals of, movies that you see where they overcome all odds and they get to a certain place? For myself, I will just briefly say, in my situation, like I said, after trying to mitigate and put in all the legwork ahead of time, to build this company, to getting to the point where I can reach my customers, which I already had gotten interested in ahead of time. That was a huge problem that she speaks to, where it's like, where do you quit and where do you keep going? And there, for myself personally, there was a certain spot where I noticed that all of the budget that I put in was being drained. And hindsight is 2020. What I did notice is that, could I have done certain things probably in a different manner? Absolutely. However, with building this company, I wanted a certain type of office mentality and positive workplace, because let's be clear, in a startup, you're not getting paid a ton, so you want to make sure that you're treating your employees well and giving them all the extraneous resources you can to augment the fact that they're getting paid less. So my tipping point really was starting to come when I noticed that the bills that were coming in were getting more and more difficult to pay. And it became a situation where, because I was a lone founder, I didn't have another person to go and speak to. So I didn't have another partner that was able to bounce ideas off with. And for all of those out there that are building companies on their own, that's one of the loneliest things you can actually feel, is when you can't even resonate with people that live around you, your family, your friends, because they don't get it. They're not dealing with the same very unique situation that you are in as an entrepreneur, and especially in tech, where there's so much difficulty in being able to be funded for your projects. The banks and traditional loan systems don't usually identify software as something they can go and take if things go belly up. So with my personal thing, what I noticed is that my health became the issue of when I needed to start to put on the brakes. So even though the warning sign was months in advance regarding the financial side, I still was looking for avenues that I could make this happen and pivot and turn this finally into something that was actually monetized. And it was the health that I was neglecting for so long that I ended up not having that opportunity. So what I found is that I ended up having to take time off. I took time off because instinctually I realized that I was getting to a point where I can't physically do this. But even though the product was at a point where I would love to keep going. So with my particular situation, I ended up calling it a hiatus. I actually wrote an article about this in Medium. And it's basically the mindset where it's not done, it's not dead. I'm not going to just walk away from it. However, it's one of those things that you kind of hit a point where you're able to segue and take time out for yourself because you have exhausted, say, your resources mentally, physically, financially, and that is not a good place to be. It ages you way too fast. So being able to recognize when the universe throws that out to you, that was a place where I feel that I took that decision, and I'm still in that, even though I'm still, got my finger in some of the work that is being done. Administration never goes away, just so you know. However, you have to be kind to yourself. I feel that I'm going to end this video with a comment, because INTJs, I don't know about the rest of you, but for myself, I am extremely hard on myself. And that comes to a point where it's not a cool thing anymore, where you think you can just overcome stuff. Your body just finally tells you that's enough. And your mind and your exhaustion just tells you that's enough. And we don't like being labeled or put into something that defines where we can and cannot go. But if your vision is out there and it's that difficulty in kind of recognizing that you have to make peace with the fact that you aren't going to get there. Not right now. You don't know what the future holds. And that's something that I hold on to, that you don't know how things are going to turn out, but you've put that in, or that mindset out there that, you know, you've worked really hard on something, and yes, there's been some barriers, but maybe in the long term, things will turn around and you're going to see where this was meant to go, and in a positive way. And a lot of times we have a tendency to get dark about situations like this. I know I do. I definitely do. And it's that time when you get that chance to be able to just to really feel it and then start coming back to yourself instead of being so obsessed in your own vision and what you see so clearly and what you are so frustrated with that you can't get to because you know it's going to happen and you literally can't. It's not a failure. I don't think anyways. I feel it sometimes because I wish I could be that, you know, Zuckerberg that just immediately got to where they wanted to go. But unfortunately, the world doesn't always work that way. So it gives you a lot of time for introspection, which sometimes you're not always having when you're in the thick of things. You might be ruminating, not so much true introspection. That at least was for myself. So taking this time, going back and being able to just let myself really kind of get back to understanding, healing my physical self. As you can see, I still have a swollen eye from cellulitis that came from this wonderful endeavor. So just being kind before you get too far into it and you really start having the wheels fall off yourself. So no vision's too important that you need to get rid of your quality of life, which I definitely found was difficult. I definitely would sacrifice my quality of life until you realize that quality of life is very important. So anyways, that's my very long video. Thanks so much for that. And as always, leave comments in the comment section if you want a video request. And thanks so much. I'll be hopefully posting again tomorrow.